They were worried about cold butt. That's to bring the heated.
Oh, look at that reaction. Look at that. What do you say? What do you know? Happy Halloween. It's the full Monte Sports Show. It is Monday, October 31st, 2022. I am your host, Monte Perez, a.k.a. The Sports Whisperer. Thank you all for tuning in. Last week, we had actually 37 states tune in across the country watching the full Monte Sports Show. So thank you for all the support. Make sure to give us a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe. We're getting a lot of people watching the shows. We're not getting enough people to subscribe. So do me a favor. If you're watching this show, give us a thumbs up. Tell one of your friends, tell a family member, tell someone to subscribe to the Nuts and Bolts YouTube channel. And you can follow me on social media, on Twitter, MonteJP231, on TikTok, Monte Perez 231. We are over 1.8 million views on TikTok, over 1.8 million views. Happy Halloween, everyone. Unfortunately, Amarie will not be able to join us. She had a death in the family, so our thoughts, our prayers are going out to Amarie. Cancer's a bitch. We all know someone who's been affected by cancer. So again, our thoughts and prayers are going out to our co-host, Amarie. Brad Ward is going to join us in about 5 minutes. Let me start with this. So about a month ago, I started talking about Brett Favre and how Brett Favre literally stole $5 million from Mississippi. $5 million Brett stole from Mississippi, right? And I don't understand how he's walking around a free man. If I stole $500, $50,000, $500,000 from our government, I would be in jail, and rightly so. Brett Favre took $5 million from Mississippi in a welfare scandal. This money was supposed to go to poor people in Mississippi who needed it. Now, people are attacking me on social media saying, hey, man, you have Packers stuff in your background. Isn't that being a hypocrite? Let me just explain. Never was a fan of Brett Favre. I started watching the Packers and rooting for them because I love Sterling Sharp. Most people know Shannon Sharp. Sterling Sharp is a Hall of Fame wide receiver who played for the Packers. Reggie White was one of my favorite NFL players of all time. So when Reggie White left the Eagles and go to Green Bay, I rooted for them. I couldn't stand Brett Favre. And one of the reasons why I couldn't stand Brett Favre is Brett Favre was the dumbest football player I've ever seen. It would be 3rd and 8. The Packers are up 4. And instead of throwing the ball away, he'd try to force it in and he'd throw an interception. As great as Brett Favre was, he was a terrible decision maker. One of the dumbest quarterbacks to ever play the game. And that's why he's the all-time leading interception guy. I would take Aaron Rodgers 1,000,000 times over Brett Favre. And I can't stand Aaron Rodgers. Now, for all you saying, oh, why? Because he didn't get the vaccine? I could care less. He's an adult. He has to make his own decisions. Everyone in my family is vaccinated. My brother George isn't. I don't care. That's his life. He's got to make his own decision. But for me, when I got a torn rotator cuff twice, I went to the doctor. And the doctors told me, the 2 doctors I went to both times, said you could get surgery or you could do rehab and physical therapy. I opted for rehab and physical therapy. I went to a doctor because I trust science and doctors. I don't listen to someone's blog from a cousin who lives in someone's basement. I look to doctors when I have a medical condition or issue to help me get right. You're not doing research unless you're in a lab and you have a controlled experiment. So I am not a fanboy. People like, you got to be ride or die with the Packers. No, I don't. No one should ever be ride or die. Whether it's your fans, whether it's a political person, whether it's your boyfriend or girlfriend. I had an ex-girlfriend who used to tell me all the time, once a week, Monte, I'm ride or die with you. Now, I broke up with her because she was a pathological liar. She lied about the littlest things. For example, one day I pull up to her house. I say, hey, did you eat? She goes, yes, I'm having a hamburger right now. I said, oh, I brought your favorite lunch. She goes, oh, come in. She was eating a salad. Now, she didn't have a weight problem. She didn't have an eating disorder. She was just a compulsive liar. Why would she tell me she's eating a hamburger when she's eating a salad? Then one night she went out for drinks, and she's like, we're doing shots. I saw her friends at a sports bar the next day. I said, wow, you guys are up. You know, I thought you guys were drinking. She goes, she didn't drink. She was the designated driver. So she lied about everything. And she told me she was ride or die with me. I broke up with her. She tried to contact me when I first moved to Florida. And she's like, I got to know, like, you know, it still bothers me why you broke up with me. I said, you lied about everything. She goes, I don't understand. Give me an example. I said, well, you told me you were ride or die. We broke up and you're still alive. So obviously you lied about that too. My point is, like, people, I'm not going to watch 82 Knick games when they suck. I'm not going to sit there every Sunday and pretend Zach Wilson is good when he's terrible. And the same thing goes for my Packers, right? I'm not going to watch the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers lose every week. I like sports too much. So if that means I'm not a ride or die fan, I'm not. In life, I'm not a ride or die with anyone. My parents, I'm ride or die because, you know, my parents love me. I don't think they like me, but they love me. So I'm ride or die with my parents because they're stuck with me. You should not be ride or die with your team. You should not be ride or die with your spouse. You should not be ride or die with your friends. If your boss treats you like crap, are you going to be ride or die? If your wife or husband cheats on you, you're going to be ride or die? No. The job of any owner, and let me explain this, the job of any owner is to keep me interested as a consumer to the end of the season. If not, I'm out. And I'm not saying those who cover teams shouldn't watch them. I cover the Packers, the Falcons, and the Dolphins every week for Nuts and Bolts Sports. It's so much better, and we'll bring Brad Ward on this, it's so much better for Brad to cover the Cavs and the Browns when they're good. So stop with these BS people attacking me on Twitter saying you got to be ride or die with the Packers because I have stuff up here. I've been a Packer fan for 30 years. And I could separate the artist from the art. Brett Favre's a scumbag. Aaron Rodgers is not a good human being. But I still root for the Packers. Always have. I still root for the Jets. I want the Jets to win, but I'm not blind. Zach Wilson sucks. He's never going to be a franchise quarterback. I said that on draft night. Did you watch what he did yesterday? 3 interceptions. In a game that had an elite defense. Again, the Jets won 4 straight games. Zach Wilson had 1 touchdown pass. We'll bring on Brad now, and we're going to ask him how it is when you have an elite quarterback. He suffers from what I suffered from. He's a Brown fan. He's covered the Browns for years. They've never had a great quarterback. The Jets have never had a great quarterback. And I'm not going to sit there on Sunday and watch the Jets lose or watch the Knicks every night get their ass kicked and win 30 games and lose 52. So if you want to attack me on social media and say that I'm not a fan, go for it. I have other things to do with my life than root for losing teams. All right. I am fired up today. Brad, how are you?
I'm excellent, sir. You are fired up. I love to see it.
I'm fired up, Brad. Let me just say this. Unfortunately, I said in the beginning you weren't backstage. Our thoughts and prayers are going with Amarie. I know thoughts and prayers is cheap, but we really mean it when it comes to Amarie. She had a death in her family. We miss her. Hopefully she'll be back next week.
100%. Thinking about her, send a good thought her way. Absolutely.
All right, Brad, let's get right to it. I'll start with Amarie's game. Listen, if I'm a Viking fan right now, Brad, I'm loving life. The Packers are terrible. The Bears just traded two of their defensive players. They traded Roquan Smith to the Ravens, which we'll get to in a minute. But the Packers, I thought I was 10-3 yesterday picking games. I thought the Cardinals were going to win this game. They didn't. The Vikings are 6-1, Brad, and they are the clear favorite to win this division.
Yeah, they're running away with it ridiculously.
Yeah.
I did not expect to see that at all. I don't really even know how good they are because I don't really think they get tested that much so far this season, but they just win games. It's hard to win in the NFL, so kudos to them for winning the games they have. You know, the Falcon or the Cardinals have problems, dude.
They're a mess.
I do not like. Is it just me or is Kyler Murray becoming less and less likable by the week? Like I don't like this guy now. He irks me.
Not only less likable. If you look at Cliff Kingsbury's history of work, he in Texas Tech, he was like 1-6, 2-5, 0-7. With the Cardinals, the second half of the season, he's terrible. So when the Cardinals start off 6-2, 7-1, and then they falter, now that team see Kyler Murray, who doesn't watch films. One of the reasons why maybe Cliff Kingsbury has stunk the second half of the season is because he can't change things up because Kyler Murray is basically draw it up in the grass and make something happen. Kyler Murray's hard to watch. Cliff Kingsbury's going to be fired. This team's a mess.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Murray like yelling, screaming, cussing at his coaches all the time. Like, who the hell does he think he is? Like, what? I mean, he has not been great. They don't look cohesive. I expected more from them. Maybe I didn't. I don't know what they are. I just don't know what they are, but I didn't expect it to trend this poorly, right? Like, the whole Kyler and Cliff, seemed to be going in a direction that, like, they were going to have an explosive offense and they were going to be in the mix, but I don't think they're a very good football team.
They got Hopkins back, so I thought they'd be better. But you're right, going to your point. Kyler's telling his coach, calm the F down. Aaron Rodgers yells at his coordinators. Tom Brady yells at his coordinators. No one ever yells at their head coach like that unless they have no respect for him. Andy Reid would never get yelled at by Patrick Mahomes. Josh Allen's not yelling at his coach. No quarterback. Tom Brady, as feisty as he is, never yelled at Bill Belichick.
I hate speculating like this, Monte, but like about Kyler, but it takes me back to the whole contract thing. Like, do we really know? Like, it makes me question how much he cares.
Yeah. I think he likes football. I don't think he loves it, because if he loved it, he'd be in the film room and they wouldn't have to put it in his contract.
A clause in his contract.
For this show and my Sunday show, I probably do 4 or 5 hours of prep. I have 10 pages of notes for each show. All they're asking him to do is watch 4 hours of film a week, and he doesn't want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what the story is there. The video games, I think he's addicted to video games. I don't know,
man. 17 years old?
Grow up. Yeah, it's just weird. It's just the whole situation is weird. They're falling apart, though. They are not a good football team. And it doesn't seem like a professional organization. Like, it's just kind of falling apart at the seams, at least from where I'm standing, right?
No, it's a great point.
Is far apart, right? It just seems to be falling apart.
Right. Okay, let's move to Dallas. The Bears got rid of Roquan Smith. Our good friend Dan said that he liked what they got for him. If I'm Justin Fields right now, I understand you're rebuilding, but for God's sakes, man, do this at the start of the season, so in the middle of the season, you're not scrambling around. I know it's on the other side of the ball, but they lose Khalil Mack, they lose Robinson to the Rams, they lose Roquan Smith, their defensive end goes to Philadelphia. Like, if I'm Justin Fields, I'm like, man, you're leaving the cupboard bare for me. They lost 49-29 to the Cowboys, and I don't think the Cowboys offense is that great to score 49 points.
I I like the Cowboys. We'll talk a little. I want to talk about Zeke and Pollard, right? Like that becomes an issue, right? Like how much is Jerry as an owner after the game saying like we go as far as Zeke goes, right? Like what is he like how much of that is him just being a stubborn owner who drafted the guy and then gave him an extension, or how much of that is him being loyal? Do you know what I mean? Like
Brad,
it's hard to
I hope Jerry is just being loyal because as a business guy, over the last 5 years, Ezekiel Elliott's yards per carry has gone down since he signed the contract. He's a shell of himself. I compare him to Dwayne Wade's last year in Miami. Yes, once every 3 or 4 games, he could do it, but he can't do it every week, Brad.
Yeah, he can't. You know, they need him. Like, they really should just have him on a pitch count, spell Pollard. Pollard's the better back at this point. He can break the long ball, you know, hit you with the explosive play. Zeke cannot, but you do need Zeke come playoff time for sure, and come January for sure. Like you're gonna need him to beat up defenses because he can still do that, right? So he's a big part of the team. It's just like. It's like they won't fully commit to Pollard as like a guy, and they would be a better offense if they would just go to him all the time. Now, they may just be playing the long game, which is smart if they are, but I don't get the feeling that I get that there's like a tug pull. They're getting a meddling owner pulling on like playtime, and that's never good.
He's the only owner in any sport after every game he has a press conference. Jerry, what the hell are you doing? You're not the coach. You're on the outside looking in. Why are you meddling with, like, who wants to coach in Dallas when Jerry Jones is up your ass 24/7?
Greg says he's never gotten more than 14 carries. I get that. But like their offense.
Jerry's got to come out and say, we're splitting backs. For him to say we're only going to go as far as Ezekiel takes us, I hope that's not the case because Zeke, if you look at his stats over the last 5 years, has declined every year. So how does Jerry not know that?
He does. You know, there are things that he does really well, right? Like he's a great pass protection guy. He still does all the little things right as a football player. So like, but it's not like his contract doesn't justify what he does for the team, which is the problem, right? And that's what people get upset about. Pollard is a better back and more explosive. And you could see yesterday that he can run between the tackles. I don't know, to Greg's point, I don't know how much he can, which is why you're going to need to split time with Elliott. Either way, it's a good problem to have, ultimately. The Cowboys do look good on both sides of the ball. I think they're one of the more balanced teams. And I put them up there in the NFC. Like, the Eagles are far and away the best team in the NFC right now, but the Cowboys are right there, too. That's fair. They look good. They look good. They Dak back. They put up 49 points. It's an impressive outing. The Bears, you know, we didn't get to talk. The Bears' Monday night performance with Justin Fields made me feel like, holy crap.
They're turning the corner. Yeah.
Like what the hell happened from 1 week to the next? They look so stagnant and like he couldn't do anything. But then he's audibling out of, blitz zero to that, the wide receiver screen to Herbert that gets him a touchdown. He's making the right audibles. He's throwing good balls. He's running all over the Patriots. It was a really impressive game. So Justin Fields may still be the guy there. I mean, I think he has talent, but he may be a guy, Monte, that needs, they're going to have to build it special around him. It's like Lamar, right? Like, you're going to have to build an offense around him special that is different, that teams are going to have to get ready for on a week-to-week basis that's different than anybody else in the NFL.
Yeah, that's definitely a fair point. When he's running the ball, he's much more effective, like you said, like a Lamar, not a great pocket passer, but the Bears are just rebuilding. If I'm in Chicago, I'm like, damn, I don't mind all these trades, but do it at the start of the season so I can actually see the young guys play. Don't just halfway through say, okay, now we're cleaning house. like I said, you lose a Khalil Mack, you lose a Robinson, you lose a Smith. Your defensive end's now in Philadelphia, which is going to bolster their defense. The Bears are packing it in, and I get it, but you should have done this at the start of the season, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's weird to like come off a big win and now you're trading people.
Yeah.
It's just a weird feeling, right? It'd suck to be a Bears fan right now, and I'm sorry to everybody out there that is.
Right.
But like, you know, I feel for you because you see some promise last week, and then now they go to this, right? And even this week you see some promise. I understand they're loading up on the picks to probably do what I'm just mentioning, right? Build the right things around him. But ultimately, Monte, like, what do you think of the Roquan Smith trade? Like, what, they got a second and a fifth?
Yeah. Well,
and the Ravens are going to take on, they're going to have to pay him, right? He's in the 5th year of his rookie deal, right?
I had Dan Goodwin on yesterday, and I said to him on the show, I said, when they made that trade to Philadelphia, Roquan Smith was in a press conference, and he broke down and he started crying. And remember, in the offseason, Roquan Smith was not happy with the contract. He wanted to get paid. My friend Andrea was like, he's out. He's gone. So I don't know if Roquan Smith went in there and said, look, guys, you know, this is not working for me. Or they just said, I don't like the way his best friend just got traded and he's all upset and he's showing that emotion. Let's get rid of him. But I would have kept him because he's a young player. He's a good running back, linebacker. I understand rebuilding. But again, go to my point. I've repeated myself 3 times. They should have done this in the offseason.
Yeah, the only I'm all for, like Andrea says, she's miserable. I'm all for, like, they should be signing the guys they hit on in the draft, right? You should 100%. Be extending those guys. The problem is he plays linebacker, which there's a lot of conflict in the league about this. Andy said he wanted out, right?
That's what Dan said. 100%, Brad.
Yeah, do you want to play a linebacker that kind of money that he's going to request? Probably not. If you're in a total rebuild, I get why you wouldn't want to, right? You probably want to allocate that contract to a position with higher value, right? So I get that, and then the Ravens get him, sure, but now they have to pay him probably, right? Or I guess they don't have to, but a second and a fifth is a lot for a rental. So you would think they're probably going to try to sign him. I don't know if that's a smart move for the Ravens. So we'll see what happens there. It's interesting.
It's a fair point by Greg. Dan made the point. You're making the point. I get it. But again, if I'm Andrea, I am miserable too.
Yeah, man.
You know, it hurts. And that was one of her favorite players. All right, let's move on to the Dolphins. Look, I watched, and I don't want to pick on him every week. I don't want it to be, you know, every time Dan Campbell comes on here, I'm picking on him. But, Brad, I'm watching the game with my dad, and one of the things we noticed right away is they are dominating the game, Brad. Miami couldn't stop them in the first half.
Yep.
On first, they throw the ball to St. Brown, and it's like an 11-yard game on first down, and it was clear in real time he didn't catch the ball. He challenges it, and I'm like, it's first down, dude. It's not like it's a third down. And it was he lost the challenge. They needed that timeout at the end of the second quarter. They didn't get it. Then they're dominating. They're running the ball. They're throwing the ball. Jared Goff looked like he did that Monday night with the Rams against the Chiefs in the first half. The Lions were the first team in the NFL this season to score on their first 5 possessions in the first half. What does he do? He does a flea flicker, and he almost gets Jared Goff's head taken off. I look at my dad, and I go, you do that when you can't move the ball. There's no reason for trickery. It's so bad to watch because they do have talent. So, and my friend Jared was going at me. I think you were on the thread yesterday.
I was,
saying, leave Dan Campbell alone. This guy's terrible. He has no feel for the game on offense. He has no feel for the game on defense. And I will say this because I don't want to pick on him. I keep hearing that Tua's terrible. I've watched Miami without him. I've watched them with him. People may not like the way Tua's made up. He's not built like Josh Allen. He's not built like Justin Herbert. But Tua with these two wide receivers and Mike McDaniels in games that he has started and finished, throw out the Raven game when he got hurt, Tua is a great quarterback in this system. I mean, yes, he has all the weapons around him, but he is thriving. He's the only quarterback this season with 112.7 passer rating. He is kicking ass. He is a totally different quarterback than he was last year, and a lot of it has to do with McDaniels. A lot of it has to do with Tyreek Hill. When Miami is healthy, their defense is not great. This offense is unstoppable. Tua is a very good quarterback, and no one wants to admit it.
Yeah, the Dolphins, well, first of all, Dan Campbell, when we go through this show today, Monty, we'll talk about, it was an interesting thread. You guys were talking about guys that should be fired, right?
Right.
It's I'm going through it a little bit with Cleveland right now because a lot of the fan base wants people fired. They want their heads, right? But, bad team, it's a vicious cycle. Bad teams fire coaches and hire coaches and fire coaches, and it's just a vicious cycle. At some point, you need to believe in somebody and give them a chance.
Okay,
it's never going to happen. But Dan Campbell is not it. You have to identify.
You and I have been talking about this for 2 years.
I
don't jump to conclusions. He's been terrible from the first press conference when he said they're going to break kneecaps.
100%. He is not the guy. You also need to recognize when it's not the guy and cut your losses. And he is not the guy in Detroit, for sure. So that one, this is it for him after this year. Look at him with his eyes closed there in the picture. He's a gem. Whatever. He's probably a good defensive coordinator somewhere, but that's what he is, right? And we've talked about the reasons why, the ups and downs, the emotional, the rah-rah. But you have to come at it with a more even-kill, intelligent way in today's NFL. His game
planning is awful, Brad. And I will say this. I know you're not a Tua fan, but, Brad, I've watched them without him. I've watched them. That offense is unstoppable.
They are. They're
Hill
very
is
good.
All the time, and so is Jalen Waddle. They're open all the time.
Yeah, they are very good offense. I even like their defense a little bit. Their defense is aggressive. They do a lot of that cover zero stuff. They play some man to man. They take some risks, but I like the way that they play. They're missing some guys, I think, in the secondary.
Yeah, but they did do a great job of adjustments in the second half.
Yeah. So I like the way they're coached, and I think that the coaching has done wonders for Tua. I think that he is great for this system. It's working right now. I just have a question of long term. I guess we'll see it play out. I don't really believe all the way in the Dolphins yet.
Okay. Which is fair.
Last week he threw and you said it had a lot to do with rust, but last week he literally they dropped 4 interceptions from him.
Mm-hmm. But I will say this. My biggest concern with Tua, he's very accurate, but if they have to go to Buffalo or if they have to go to Baltimore, cold weather, he's got small hands. He doesn't really throw. He's very accurate, but he doesn't stretch the defense. There was a lot of times yesterday where Tyreek Hill was open. He had to come back for the ball or it would have been a touchdown. So in cold weather, I'm going to question his arm strength and what he could do there.
Yeah, I just wonder if somebody really makes him sit in the pocket and carve you up. Can he do it? I wonder.
The offensive, what they do, and then we'll get on because we're spending too much time on the Dolphins. But what they do is they'll put 2 tight ends, a running back, and then they have their wide receivers, and all of them go out on passes. So you can't double team Tyreek Hill because Waddle's open. You can't double team Waddle and Tyreek Hill because then Gesicki's open. And then if you have that, you have Mostert, who's extremely fast out of the backfield. So McDaniel, I had the Dolphins winning 11 games, and I think if they make the playoffs, and we'll get to this in a bit, McDaniel or Pete Carroll should be coach of the year.
Listen, here's my concern, right? And I think you're right about the 11 games. They could win 11 games. But a buddy of mine says this all the time, and he's one of the smartest football people I know, about the Ravens, right? The Ravens are constructed to win a ton of regular season games but not so much when it comes to the playoffs, right? Like they haven't had a ton of success in the playoffs.
Right.
But I worry about that a little bit with Miami. Like, are they constructed to win a ton of regular season games? The scheme is fantastic on offense. I like the aggressiveness on defense. We'll find out. I'm not throwing them in that category yet. I just have some questions about them yet.
Yeah, and for me, if Miami makes the playoff, it's a successful year. They're not better than the Bills. They're not better than the Chiefs. But I will say this. No defensive coordinator wants to go up against Hill and Waddle.
No.
All right, let's move
they're
on.
A nightmare.
I said this again with my friend Jared. Frank Reich, you disgust me. When Jonathan Taylor has 16 carries and you look at the Tennessee Titans, what they did, the Tennessee Titans yesterday, their backup quarterback threw 10 times. Okay? And their running back, Derrick Henry, ran the ball 32 times.
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor, again, 16 carries. Frank Reich is in trouble. And you love the quarterback from Washington, Tyler Heineke, don't you?
I do. He's my guy. He's a gamer, man. I like him a lot. Like, I liked him last year, too. Like, he throws a pretty good ball. He doesn't make a ton of mistakes. And Washington has like a really good defense, right? Like, or they have some really good players on defense. Yep. They have some intriguing speed on offense. Like can you imagine Terry McLaurin or Curtis Samuel like in Kansas City's offense? Like, their speed is dangerous. He made a play at the end of the game to win them a big game yesterday. I think they won the other night before what's his name on Monday Night Football. Yeah, so good for them. They are an intriguing team. Ever since they loaded up that defense with all those good players, and they don't even have Chase right now. So like they're an intriguing team, and I like Heineke. He's a gamer. I actually like him better than what's his face, the Red Rocket rifle. Part
Andy Dalton. Well, Carson Wentz.
Wentz.
Brad, yes or no? Just give me a yes or no answer here. The NFC East is what we thought the AFC West would be.
Yeah, probably so. Yep.
Okay.
I think
so.
All
right. Let's move to San Francisco. They have now beaten the Rams 8 straight games. Sean McVay has no answers for Kyle Shanahan. I know they won the NFC Championship, but with Christian McCaffrey now, is this the best team in the NFC? Because he looked like old Christian McCaffrey doing it all. He's the first player in, I think, 30 years to throw for a touchdown, run for a touchdown, and catch a touchdown pass.
Yeah, of course he is, right? Like, Shanahan is the kind of guy that, like, he's got his new weapon, so he wants to show, like, what a great coach he is, right? So, of course, he threw for one, caught one, and ran for one. Like, this was a close game into the third quarter. The Rams are just, I saw some scary numbers on Stafford this week. Like, he's having a little bit of a tough time, right? And doesn't look the same as last year. He's very much struggling. But the 49ers, I think, are up there. They're in the running for best teams in the NFC, but the Eagles are the best team in the NFC. I would put, like, the Niners and the Cowboys, like, right below them.
Yeah, and I will say this. With Kyle Shanahan, one of the things that Doug Peterson said after they won the Super Bowl, he said the hardest thing was to come in and change plays up because you won a Super Bowl with your bread and butter, but then teams saw that. We're starting to see now Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford, maybe he took the offseason off. Maybe they drank a lot of champagne and they were just like, we won the Super Bowl, we're going to run our plays. But teams know what they're running now. Bosa for the 49ers had a press conference today and said he was surprised that after the third quarter, the entire Rams team quit.
Yeah, that's quite a statement. Bosa doesn't mince words sometimes. But yeah, the Rams, it's interesting. It's like, okay, so they had the whole motto, right? Like draft picks, whatever, screw draft picks. They used all their draft picks to load up and go get the Super Bowl. And it's kind of like, hey, they got it. So can the fan base really complain right now?
Are they the Lakers of the NFL?
Right. Yeah. Did you go get it and that's it? I don't know. It doesn't feel like their coach, McVay, like he's the type of guy that would subscribe to that kind of thought. But they just don't have it right now. Like the whole Allen Robinson thing is like a complete fail. So I don't really know. I think they're missing a weapon. Cam Akers isn't playing. They want to trade him. It's just kind of weird. It's been a really weird year. Like, what happened with Cam Akers? He was by far your best back in the playoffs last year. So when he's healthy this year, why all of a sudden, where's the disconnect there? I don't get it.
And again, I look at them and I just say they took the offseason off. Like, Sean McVay probably believed he's the best coach. And again, Doug Peterson said this. It's a great point. When you win the Super Bowl, do you change things up or do you say, hey, we won the Super Bowl? But you look at this team, offensively was their strength. Yes, they have playmakers on defense. Cooper Kupp, people are pissed off because they were getting their asses kicked. Cooper Kupp's in the game, and now he might miss some time because Sean McVay left him in the game. That's a time where you're getting your ass kicked. You take your starters out because now Cooper Kupp, their best player, maybe the best wide receiver in the NFL, may miss significant time, Brad.
Yeah, you're right. It's tough. I mean, he's under the gun right now. Obviously, I think this stems ultimately back to Stafford's play. And I think, like, he's just not the same guy as he was last year, to Greg's point there. And I saw some hideous numbers on PFF this week that he had him like one of the lowest quarterbacks in the league in a lot of figures, advanced metrics. So not playing well. As to your point, McVay not making the proper adjustments, like maybe a little bit of an ego, like, hey, we're just going to go do the same stuff and it's going to work. No, guys are going to adjust. This is the NFL. Like, teams have to morph every year and oftentimes every week to be successful, Monty. Like, you have to... The Titans are a great example, and I'm sure we'll get to that, right? Like, they just do what they have to do on a week-to-week basis, regardless of how ugly it is, to get the win.
And I will say this to your point. For example, if I have a Lamar Jackson, if I have a Josh Allen, we could run the same plays, and if it doesn't work, they're going to bail me out because they could run for 20, 30, 40 yards. Matthew Stafford needs to be in a system because he can't create or extend plays for a long period of time. How many times do you see Josh Allen running around for 10 seconds? Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Marcus Mariota did that this weekend. Matthew Stafford needs the system to work because he's not the system.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic point. Great point. Like, he's not going to bail you out, right? Like, he's not going to make a ton of off-schedule throws, right? Or off-schedule plays. Like, the offense needs to work, and he needs to be accurate and a good thrower within that offense. But he's not going to make a bunch of plays outside the pocket, or when the plays break down, he's not going to go get you an explosive or anything like that. That's just not who he is.
You know, Brad, at least once a show, I will say to you, man, that's a great point. I think right then and there, I shocked you with my knowledge.
No. Yeah, Monty, I know your knowledge. You're fantastic. Excellent point, though. I totally agree.
I don't think I've ever said something where you were like, holy shit, that's a great point.
No, you say you shock all the time. I think that, Monty. That's all I think all the time.
I'm kidding. Okay, Brad, I want to talk about this game because I'll give you a little example. Everyone has a guilty pleasure, something they watch that you shouldn't watch. For me, it's a series called The 440 on Netflix. If you just go to YouTube and type in The 440 and watch the opening credits of the show, it's like a 1980s theme song. The show's about all these people, 4,400 people show up in Seattle after they've been abducted by aliens.
I saw the beginning of it. I put it on one time. Me and my wife tried it, and it looked intriguing, but I don't think you know how you start a show and you're like, hey, that was pretty good, but you never make it back to it.
So that's my guilty pleasure, this show, right? It's a terrible show. The acting's horrible. It's a terrible show, but I continue to watch it. That's how I feel about the Atlanta Falcons, right? They are terrible, Brad. They are so bad on so many levels, but they are in first place. They are 4-4. Now, this game was crazy. The Atlanta Falcons, 4-4, beat the Carolina Panthers 2-6 in overtime, 37-34. So, first of all, the Falcons are done. They're going to lose. All of a sudden, Marcus Mariota throws a 47-yard touchdown pass with under a minute left to ironically, a man named Bird who plays for the Atlanta Falcons. So they go up. There's 12 seconds left. They throw a Hail Mary pass. DJ Moore is wide open. They connect. He takes his helmet off. The whole team is celebrating. They get a 15-yard penalty on the extra point. All they have to do is kick the extra point to win. They miss. It goes to overtime, and I got to show you the video on a 3rd and 1. Look what Mariota.
Algier off the Mariota's off to the races. Mariota faked it to Algier, and Mariota picks up the first down. We're down at 1. Algier off the Mariota's off to the races. Mariota faked it to Algier, and Mariota picks up the first down.
And let me just say this: when they kick the field goal, it's like they won the Super Bowl. They should have never won this game. This is the ugliest team I've ever seen. I don't like the coach. How do you give up a 50-yard Hail Mary? And let's be honest, DJ Moore was wide open, and yet they win the game. They're 4-4. They're the best team in the worst division in football.
Yeah, they're first place, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what to these teams, right? These two teams. This division is awful. Mariota with an unbelievable run right there. When he bounced it outside, incredible run. He's a great athlete at quarterback. How many throws I didn't look at the numbers. How many throws did
he actually threw the ball. He had 3 touchdowns, threw for 253 yards. Kyle Pitts had a good day, 5 catches, 80 yards, and a touchdown. When Mariota has to throw, he can make plays. Granted, Carolina's terrible, but Brad, this team's going to probably make the playoffs, and they're terrible.
Yeah, so everything going on with Tampa Bay, right? So this is their year, right? Like, ride Mariota, this is a big win in division. I don't care. It's hard to win in the NFL. It doesn't matter that it was Carolina. It doesn't matter. You found a way to win this game. These games are wild at the end every week in the NFL. Good teams, bad teams against each other. You just got to find a way to win, and they did. That play, I do have to say, P.J. Walker has been incredible the past 2 weeks. That throw
was unbelievable.
Moore was incredible. Like he launched it down the field right on the money. Moore takes his helmet off. Even though he took his helmet off, you're a kicker. That's your job. You have to make that anyways. I can't blame Moore for that.
Brad, it's indoors, so there's no wind.
There's no excuse to miss that extra point. Even if he takes a dumb move, they're both at fault. But the kicker's at more fault, in my opinion, than that opinion. I hate kickers, right? You know I hate kickers. I hate the kicking aspect of the NFL at all. Like, they drive me nuts. I hate that a kicker can decide a game week in, week out. It's insanity, right? Probably because Justin Tucker and Boswell and all these really good kickers kick against the Browns. But either way, it drives me nuts that they lose this game. Carolina does after that incredible play, and they missed the extra point.
And he missed an extra point in overtime. He missed an extra point. A field goal in overtime. But again, Brad, I watch Atlanta every week. I know they suck. They're 4-4. And again, when they won this game, Brad, they acted like they put the kicker on his shoulders. They acted like they won the Super Bowl. And I'm going,
good for them, man.
I will say this. Marcus Mariota, and if you watch this clip at the end, Marcus...
We're down at 1. Algier. Off the Mariota's off to the races. Mariota faked it to Algier, and Mariota picks up the first down. We're down at 1.
Never talks trash, ever. And he was going nuts after that run. But, Brad, how can I root for this team when I know they're not good at all?
Because you never know, man. You never know, right? Like you're right. They got torched by the Bengals, right, last week. And I've actually watched a ton of that game this week. So they really did get torched by them. Burrow had a monstrous game. But who cares, man? They win. All they have to do is win in their division, and they'll get in the playoffs. If they can beat the Panthers and they can beat the Bucks and the Saints, then they'll get in the playoffs.
Listen, I don't want to see the Bucks anywhere near the playoffs. I'm done with Brady, so
right.
I
agree.
With that.
The only team I would worry about there is the Saints, and I'm sure we'll get to them,
But look, Andy Dalton, can you buy into him? He's starting over Jameis Winston. I know Winston has been injured, and Taysom Hill comes in, he'll score like 2 or 3 touchdowns, and then you don't see him for like 3 weeks. I don't know what they're doing on offense.
It's a weird team. It's a weird operation. There's a lot of weird stuff going on in the NFL this year. It's hard to figure out week to week.
Okay, speaking about weird, Brad, you've covered football your whole life. You've watched football your whole life. I've never seen what is going on in Seattle. Geno Smith, I'll tell people the story. Geno Smith, when he was with the Jets, they're playing the Chargers. They get in on a Friday night, and the coaches are going stuff over with Geno, and he goes, guys, you can leave. I'm going to watch the film. I'm going to take notes. This is a Friday night, probably right after dinner around 7 o'clock. The coaches say, okay, you have any questions, you get to us. The coaches go to a movie theater on a Friday night. Who do they see in the third row? Geno Smith. He basically bolted out of the film room when he told them he was going to watch. He was a disaster in New York. He's been a backup his whole life. I watched him throw yesterday with my dad, rolling out. He's dropping dimes in tight windows. He gets sacked. He's yelling at his offensive line. And I got to say this about Pete Carroll, Brad. Tyler Lockett, who never drops a pass, dropped a short touchdown. His head is down. He's miserable. Tyler Lockett, it was the first time he dropped a pass all year. Pete Carroll goes over to him. He hugs him. He's talking to him. What happens next? 5 plays later, Tyler Lockett catches a touchdown. Pete Carroll's the first one to hug him. This Seattle team, we've never seen it before. We've never seen a journeyman quarterback be a top 10 quarterback after 7, 8, 9 years in the NFL.
It's probably it's my favorite story right now in the NFL, I think. So he was drafted by the Jets, right?
Correct.
Okay. How many years did he play there, 2?
I think he played 3 years and then they got rid of him.
Okay.
He was a backup 1 year. Then he was going to be the starter, but he didn't pay someone $500 in a card game, and the linebacker broke his jaw.
Punched him in the jaw.
And broke his jaw. So he was out for 8 weeks.
Yeah, incredible story there. But he goes to, I'm trying to get this. Okay, I knew he was with the Giants, right?
Yes.
So Jets, 4 years, Giants, Chargers, Seattle behind. Okay, so like this entire time, he's just been honing his craft, right? He's been in the background. He's been a backup. He's watched film. He's watched quarterbacks. He's just getting better, practicing, working on his throwing. He gets an opportunity. How many years later? 10 years later.
That's what I'm saying.
It's insane. 10 years later, and he's ready. And he jumps on it. And you saw glimpses of it last year when he got...
He's really good.
He's very good. He's very good. He is throwing dimes. He's throwing explosive plays all over the field. Incredible. You got to give credit to Pete Carroll. The culture
screaming at his linemen, yelling at him. Players responding to him. I've never seen anything like this.
Me neither. Total just took his time, took his beating, just bided his time in the background, getting better, waiting for an opportunity, and then pounces in a perfect opportunity where he's got weapons like Lockett, Metcalf. They have
Walker.
Yep, Walker, who's been very good. Their defense is coming along. Like they've filling the roles of like the Legion of Boom, like kind of slowly but surely with like guys that can do the same types of things. And
by the way, Tyler Lockett came out after the game, and then he had to recant it because he said it's amazing to see what this team can do when no one cares about who takes the credit. It was a direct shot at Russell Wilson, and then he had to come out and said, I've been saying, because people are like, oh, you're talking trash about Russell Wilson, which he was. Let's be honest. But, Brad, I've never seen anything like this. My dad's watching this game with me, and he he's one of the best quarterbacks I've seen this year. And conversely, my dad, who's brutally honest, goes, Daniel Jones sucks. He's like, he sucks.
Yeah.
Like, Danny Dimes is horrible, and we'll get to Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson sucks too. But Brad, I've never seen someone sit on the bench for a decade and come out and command the offense. The talent is there. He's an inspiration for anyone who believes in themselves and never gotten an opportunity.
Yep, second chances in this league. Like, you'll
Fifth
always
chances.
Yeah, right. But you'll always get one. It's about being ready. Like, he is the model story for being ready, right? Like, and like, it's incredible. Like, it's truly incredible. He is throwing the ball all over the field, torching defenses, reading defenses. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league right now. Yeah, it's an amazing story. I love the story, and it's hard for me not to like this the Seahawks, because you look at their sideline, they're all together, they're all happy, it's always positive. Pete Carroll has an incredible effect on their culture. And you have to give him credit because he failed in the NFL, went back to college, came back to the NFL again, and it got it right. And a lot of people thought, it was the Legion of Boom, it was Russell Wilson. No, I think it was Pete Carroll a lot.
And that's a good point. Jim Plunkett won a Super Bowl, who was a journeyman as well. Yeah, that's a great point, Greg. And I will say this. This is Pete Carroll's team, right? The young guys, inexperienced, something to prove, the rah-rah guy. I don't think Pete Carroll's a genius when it comes to X's and O's, but rallying troops, us against them. You look at Pete Carroll yesterday, and I've watched him all year. I've never seen a coach have more fun on the sideline than he does.
He is the biggest gym rat. The thing that, you follow Pete Carroll, he's like a gym rat. They say like he is like the epitome of a gym rat, like in basketball, right? Like, he is there all the time, every night, as late as can be, just working his ass off. Like, he just loves it so much. Like, and it's not work for him. It's just love, the passion. Like, the guy loves the game. He loves being one of the guys. He loves being around his players. You can tell his players love him. So it's really cool to watch them do well.
Brad, if they win the division or make the playoffs, they should build a statue for Pete Carroll, because I had them winning I thought they were the worst team in the NFL. Pro Football Focus had them as the worst defensive and offensive line. They said their secondary is terrible. They said Geno Smith is ranked 30th as a quarterback. Everyone had them wrong.
People were laughing their asses off when he named Geno Smith the starter.
Yeah,
like, seriously.
I was too. I was
like,
totally
what is
wrong.
going on? How is that possible? Like, it's 30. I was like, how old is Geno Smith? First of all, I'm like, is he 40 years old? And now he's the starter with the Seahawks. Like, what is happening here? But he looks like he's 25, and he's incredible. I don't. It's hard to explain, man.
I mean, he was dropping balls yesterday, and I'm like, what am I watching? Like, he's really good. All right, let's move on to the Jets. Look. Zach Wilson, again, it's kind of like Dan Campbell. I'm not going to beat on him every week. 3 interceptions. Bill Belichick passed George Halas for second all-time on the NFL's career coaching victories list. And the New England Patriots continued their mastery of the New York Jets. Bill Belichick has beaten the Jets 13 straight times. I went 10-3 picking games, and the 2 games that I was sure were going to win, if I was a betting man, which I'm not, I would have bet Seattle because I had them to win on my show, and I took the Patriots. Bill Belichick, which was so shocking what Justin Fields did, because Bill Belichick dominates first and second year quarterbacks. Yeah. Zach Wilson is not a franchise quarterback. Zach Wilson is not an NFL starter. He's a backup at best. And the rest of the season for the Jets, this was their easy part of the schedule. They're going to play the Bills twice. They still have to play the Patriots. They got to play the Dolphins with a healthy Tua. The Jets will not make the playoffs. They'll win 8 games, which is an improvement. But for all you people thinking Zach Wilson is a starter, you're misguided.
You don't think there's any chance for him?
No.
Like, when you watch him play, I liked him coming out in the draft, right? Honest. And I may be wrong on him. It certainly looks that way. But sometimes it takes the guys a couple years. Do you see anything there? Like, is he like any like glimmer of hope that he could figure it out? Like,
you know what I see? I see Johnny Manziel.
Yeah.
He thinks he's faster than he is. He thinks his arm is better than his. He has no discipline in the pocket. He thinks because what he did in college, like Johnny Manziel, he can do in the NFL. He can't. The defensive back, he had 3 interceptions yesterday, and they were all terrible, terrible reads. The Jets aren't a bad team. They have talent. As a matter of fact, one of the wide receivers they asked, I think it was Moore, they asked, what's your chemistry like? He goes, chemistry? He didn't even throw the ball to me once. He goes, I can't talk about my quarterback. Again.
He wants out. Elijah Moore wants out.
Yeah, Elijah Moore wants out. In the preseason, they were talking about Flacco outplaying, and players aren't stupid, Brad. You know this. If a backup's dominating like Patrick Mahomes did in practice when Alex Smith was there, when Joe Flacco is outplaying you, I'm sorry. Joe Flacco's a nice player. He's a veteran. He should not be outplaying your franchise quarterback.
No, 100%. I agree. They're in a tough spot now because they have good players on defense. They
really
have
do.
Weapons on offense. And so what do you do? Like, how do you fix this now? If this is not your guy, how do you get the guy in the offseason? It's a tough spot for them because they're probably going to win, like you said, 8 games. They're not going to be great because they're going to run into the Bills and some good teams down the stretch that are going to beat them. And you said they're winning despite Zach Wilson. What do they do now?
Well, the only thing that they can do is if obviously they believe in Zach Wilson, but the players don't believe in him. But you got to do what the Bills did around Josh Allen. You got to get maybe a veteran wide receiver. You got to keep building their offensive line. Now, look, Hall getting injured was a huge part of their offense. I'm not going to say that. But what I learned about this game is when Zach Wilson needs to carry a team for one game that's good defensively, he can't do it. And your franchise quarterbacks got to be able to do that, Brad.
Yeah. The thing that concerns me the most, even this game, which is because it's Belichick, it's like, okay, you can maybe throw that one out.
Yeah.
It's the games before this, right, where he was throwing for like 100 yards.
Yeah. He had 1 touchdown in 4 games.
Yeah. So that's the concerning part. It's like they're kind of like hiding him, right?
Yeah.
In their offense. And when you have to hide your quarterback to win in the NFL, that's not a good thing, obviously. But they have the crazy thing is they have the talent there. They have a chance to be good. It's like you're saying go ahead and continue to build around him, and then what? If you don't believe he's the guy, what do you do?
If it's me, I do what the Arizona Cardinals did. The Arizona Cardinals drafted Josh Rosen. They said, no, we're going after Kyler Murray. He's not our guy. They saw enough of him. I've seen enough of Zach Wilson to know he's not the guy. And I think the coaching staff has seen it because the head coach came out in preseason and said Joe Flacco would start on about 25 teams. So I understand that he's playing good. This is what we expect of him. But let's be honest, Joe Flacco's not starting on 25 teams. The coach was just trying to protect his young quarterback. Brad, I got to ask you a question, switching gears. We got about 10 minutes left. My friend Bill says, Brad, the Cleveland Cavaliers are a legitimate threat to get to the Eastern Conference Finals with their new point guard. Please talk about Donovan Mitchell for a second. Wow.
He is so good. He is so good, Monty. Like, I knew he was good. I watched the Jazz a lot. Like, I liked Quinn Snyder. So I was a fan of Mitchell's, but he is so good. They are so fun to watch. They pass the ball, they play defense, they're up and down the floor. They're not even playing with Garland yet. But Mitchell is better than I ever thought he was watching him before. And this is a guy that scored 40 points in back-to-back playoff games and all this stuff, right? He is amazing, and they are amazing with him. They are very, very good, and they are a ton of fun.
He's scoring 30 a game, right?
Yeah, he's scoring 30 a game. He's assisting. He's facilitating, driving, dunking on people and ones. He's having a ball.
Has he come in and taken over the leadership of this team? And the players the players allow that, even though they were up and coming last year?
Yeah, very much so. They've rallied around him. They're all he's very much not only has he become a leader, but it's like he was bought in completely. Like you see them all together, you can tell they like each other. There's pictures of them laughing. They're doing goofy pictures after games, before games. They're together. It's a very, very cohesive unit.
Brad, he's better than he was at Utah, if that's possible.
He is, and you got to give JB Bickerstaff credit. He's done an amazing job. The guy can't speak. It's unbelievable. I don't know how he exists or how he coaches a team because his voice is literally gone. It's hard to listen to him talk. How does he talk
in the timeout when it's so loud?
I don't know, but he cannot talk in interviews at all. It sounds like he's about to die. It's unbelievable. But he communicates to his team somehow, and I don't know. Like Doc Rivers sounds the same way sometimes, right? But I guess that's just basketball coach, right? You would know, right?
55 wins over under. Is that too high?
I don't think it's too high. I think they can get right there.
Okay, so that's a good number, as my friend.
That's a good number.
Okay, all right. He was texting me the whole time, so I wanted to get your take on it.
They're so fun to watch. If you haven't watched them, you got to watch them.
I've watched them twice. And I will say this, totally different topic. My Atlanta Hawks have the best starting five in the NBA. They're going to be very good this year as well. Okay, let's move to two more teams, and we'll get to your Browns. Listen, I love this team. Listen, if you had Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown in DraftKings, you probably won about $10,000. 3 touchdowns, dominant performance. The Eagles are the only team in the NFL, Brad, to score more than 20 points in every game this season. Now they get the defensive end from Chicago. I'm sure they're going to make another move before the trading deadline. This team, other than the 49ers, is by far the best team in the NFC.
I don't know how Nick Sirianni is doing it because I think he's a total tool, but they have bought in. They like him. They're winning. Their defense is good. Their offense is good. They're probably the most balanced team in the NFL, offense and defense. It's a great move to go get Griffin because it shows everybody on the team that you're in, that you believe in him and you're going in. Brown was unbelievable yesterday, unstoppable. And on the flip side, in the Battle of Pennsylvania, the Steelers Tomlin's going to have a losing season. And if I were them, I would be hitting the eject button right now on Kenny Pickett because he looks awful, terrible. I would, if I were them, I would be doing exactly what you said because there's going to be good quarterbacks in this draft, right? CJ Stroud, there's going to be other guys. Like, if I were them, I'd be going after Stroud or somebody and bailing on the Pickett experiment now. I don't see anything there. But,
it's funny, Brad, because casual fans will say this. I remember when Mark Sanchez played in preseason and people were like, this guy's going to be an all-pro. We finally have our quarterback. I'm like, they don't even play defense in preseason. It's either man-to-man or a zone. They don't disguise anything. Everyone thought Kenny Pickett in preseason was going to be amazing. I bought into one player, and that's Pickens, the wide receiver. He's been terrible. Mike Tomlin has no idea what to do on offense. They have a great running back. They got a ton of wide receivers, and they can't score. And I know it's maybe sacrilegious to say this, but Pat Riley once said, after 5 or 6 years, you got to revamp your lineup or change the coach. It might be time for Mike Tomlin to move on in Pittsburgh because whatever he's doing, it's not working.
Yeah, I don't think they'll do that, honestly, because they're just not cut from that cloth. Like, they don't – I don't think they
don't fire their coaches.
No. And I think Tomlin's a good coach, but like he never like it's always an offensive coordinator, right? Like he never has any responsibility there. So it's Matt Canada now. So a lot of this can fall on Matt Canada. They can fire him and bring in another offensive coordinator. Look at how many offensive coordinators have come in and for Roethlisberger and then been fired when things didn't go perfectly. Todd Haley, Canada. They have had a number of guys in there, right? Arians, and like all this stuff through the years. But it keeps him like 1 degree away from all the blame because it can always be like, oh, well, it's not Tomlin's fault, it's the OC's fault. Yeah, I think he'll survive it.
It's not in their makeup to make a rash decision, but Mike Tomlin hasn't been good for years. One of the first articles I wrote about 5 years ago, I said, the Steelers won't make it back to the Super Bowl for a decade. My friend Rudy, who's been on my show, my friend Rico, they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, there's just something not right about this team. And obviously, Tom Brady being in New England at the time. But I said the Steelers won't get back to the Super Bowl for a decade. I said that in 2017. I don't think they're getting back there anytime soon. You look at the AFC with Josh Allen, with Patrick Mahomes. The Steelers are so far away from getting back to the Super Bowl. And again, if I am them, I bring in Mike Tomlin and I say, thank you for everything you've done. It's time to move on.
Yeah. I don't see, they're not close either. This is total rebuild. They've not had to rebuild at all. Like, they've been able to kind of just adjust on the fly with Roethlisberger. The whole time Roethlisberger was there and always be competitive. But this is the first time they're going to have to rebuild in some time, like 20 years probably, right? So, like, it's tough. And it's, their fan base, too bad. Sucks for you.
Brad, you could smile because I know you love it. All right. I want to talk about coaching of the year, coaches of the year. I don't like Mike Vrabel because to me it's too much 1980s. But look at what happened yesterday, right? Malik Willis started for an injured Ryan Tannehill. Brad, he was 5 for 10. He threw 10 times in an NFL game. Derrick Henry, this is what Jonathan Taylor should be doing, Frank Reich. 32 carries, 219 yards, 2 TDs. I saw on TikTok someone started A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts, and Derrick Henry. I mean, talk about like just your great day in fantasy football. But this is who the Titans are. It doesn't matter who plays quarterback. It doesn't matter if it's Ryan Tannehill. It doesn't matter if it's Malik Willis. All that matters is they're going to run the ball down your throat, and they beat a bad team 17-10. Brad, the Titans are 5-2, and they're not that good.
No, they're not. And they just, this is what they do. This is what Vrabel is, an excellent coach, right? Like, he is football guy through and through, and he has, like Belichick, has figured out that it's a week-to-week league, right? You are who you have to be to win that week, and he has taken that from Belichick, and he's doing the same thing with this team. Yes. They are who they have to be to beat whoever's in front of them.
You're not worried about them making a deep playoff run, right? I mean, this is not a deep playoff team. They're going to win 12 games in a crappy division. That division sucks.
It does. But you know what's interesting, though? And we'll see. I think they play Sunday night against the Chiefs or something like that next week. That'll be interesting because they've given teams like the Chiefs problems in the past. Yeah. So, like, I don't want to rule them out because of Vrabel. Like, their defense has the capacity to they can throw the kitchen sink at you on defense and do a lot of things that make you uncomfortable and stress you out and, create turnovers. This is how they've survived and made the playoffs for years, right?
And
they don't have the best talent.
How do you beat a Josh Allen? How do you beat a Patrick Mahomes? You run the ball 45 times with Derrick Henry.
And keep him on the sideline. Yes. Yep, and keep him on your best offense. Your best defense is your offense when you're the Titans. But also, he does a lot on the defensive side of the ball. He can be very creative. He puts a game like I talk about, like Joe Woods on my show all the time. He is not team-centric, opponent-based game plan week to week enough. It's like, this is who we are on defense week in, week out. Instead, you have to be whoever you have to be, right? Like, you have to morph into whatever defense you can be to stop the opponent. That's what he does. That's what good defenses do. And he will have a plan for these really good teams against Mahomes and against Josh Allen. Will it work? I don't know, but they always have a puncher's chance because they can come up with an exotic game plan that throws a bunch of different looks at a quarterback.
Definitely fair point. Okay, Brad, we all took the Patriots last week. We lost. You and Amarie took the Tampa Bay Bucks. I took the Ravens. So you and I are tied. Give us keys tonight. Who wins and why? Give us a bunch of keys to the Bengals, Browns. After reading your article, I did not know that the Browns have won 4 straight against the Bengals. So thank you for that. Are you confident? What are the keys to the games tonight?
I am strangely confident. I did not feel good about last week, but I do feel weirdly good about this one. I don't know why. Chase and Ward, your headliners, are out. It'll be interesting to see what the Bengals do on offense because they're still got Higgins and Boyd. I dug really into what teams have done against the Bengals all year with their safety coverages and stuff. The Browns, my concern is that, like, you cannot let Joe Burrow, like, they depend a lot on Joe Burrow's right arm, right? Like, they have gone to... Their fix from going 0-2, Monty, has gone to him getting the ball out faster and quicker, and that has resulted in them just being a ton better, right? And he is carving people up. He is the first quarterback ever, Monty, in the last 2 weeks. Now, granted, this was against the Saints and the Atlanta defense, right? But
Atlanta's
in the last
the
2
worst
weeks,
in pass defense, by the way.
right? First quarterback ever to run for 1 touchdown or more, throw for 3 or more touchdowns, throw for 300 yards, and have no interceptions in back-to-back weeks. First quarterback ever in the last 2 weeks. So the only person ever to do that before, what was the one without the interceptions part of it or whatever, was Joe Montana. So incredible performances the last 2 weeks. They've really ramped it up. They went from like 21st in EPA per play in the first 3 weeks to 7th now through 7 weeks. So they're surging on offense.
They got right in the second half of the New Orleans game.
They really did, and they've figured out kind of like what they want to do more. They're just really just taking away the ability of that offensive line, which they thought was better on paper, but really wasn't when they got on the field. They've taken that out of play by just getting the ball out of his hand faster, right? And then when the teams do go man-to-man or cover 1 or cover 0, they just rely on their Chase and Higgins and back shoulders and shot plays, right? So they're very, very explosive because of, as I said before on here, they rely a lot on their talent and not so much the scheme. But it is,
and Joe Burrow's one of those guys who can extend plays.
Who can do that.
And he's a better runner than most people think.
I worry that Joe Woods won't come up with an exotic enough blitz package, although he did last year, Week 9, the Browns beat them 41-16. They've had their number with Stefanski, so I feel strangely good. That's my concern is the defense, but they played better against Lamar last week in a close, tough loss. I like the Browns at home. Wild atmosphere, Halloween in Cleveland, Monday Night Football. It's going to be insane. Now, if they play terribly, it could get really ugly in there because they are 2-5. But bye week after this is an empty the tank game for the Browns, right?
Is this a must-win for the Browns, Brad? If they want any chance of the playoffs?
If you want any of the chance, like not even the playoffs, but if you want to play relevant football with Deshaun Watson, you have to win tonight.
Okay. So sense of urgency, empty the tank, nothing left on the table.
Absolutely. Bye week next week, you got to have this one.
Okay, give us a score here.
I got him winning 30-23 because of that.
That's funny. I have
it's a homer pick.
I have the Bengals winning 27-24 on a late field goal. You and I are tied right now. I don't really want to go into the Thursday night game. We're both going to pick the Eagles over the Texans, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
I will take the fly, Eagles fly.
Brad, I see you like the Eagles now. You're starting to believe in what they're doing.
It's not that I like them, but they are impressing me. Yes, they're growing on me. Certainly. Yeah, they're growing on me. They're a complete football team. I just can't get into the whole Nick Sirianni is such a tool with the dog mentality and all that crap. Oh, my God.
All right, Brad, last question before we get you out of here. Who's the first NFL coach to get fired this year? You think Josh McDaniel, who is 13-22, who's been terrible, you think Josh McDaniel survives in Las Vegas?
Yeah, you got to give him more than a year, right?
Brad, they got shut out, man. You cannot get shut out in the NFL if you're an offensive-minded coach.
Okay, but I still think they give him more than a year. I don't think it's fair to give a coach, as bad as you are, I don't think it's fair to give somebody with a Dan Campbell, sure. You recognize it. He's an idiot. You fire him, right? That's fine. But somebody with the track record of a Josh McDaniel, right? I think that you have to.
My problem with McDaniel, he's an offensive coach, and their offense has been terrible. Their offense has been terrible. It's the same thing with Hackett in Denver. He's an offensive coach, and when you don't if Las Vegas is losing 37-34, I live with it because he's an offensive coach. Obviously, Matt Rule got fired. Who would you say is the next coach to get fired?
Black Monday, it should be Dan Campbell.
Okay. So Dan Campbell.
Should be Dan Campbell, yeah. And then I think that I don't know what they're going to do with Hackett, but he should lose his job as well.
Okay. All right, Brad. How can we? Listen, I can't stand Brandon Staley, but that's a whole other show. All right, Brad. How can we follow you? How can we support you? Thank you so much for coming on today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm going right over to the OBR pregame show. So I actually switched from USA Today to CBS 247 Sports with the OBR, the Orange and Brown Report. They literally are the best Brown coverage in Cleveland, around in anywhere that you can get. It's a huge jump for me and a big deal for me to switch over to them. I've wanted to work there for a long time, so I'm very excited about it. I wrote my first 2 articles there this week, and it's an awesome move for me. So I'm thrilled with that, and of course you can listen to All Eyes on Cleveland, where all popular podcasts are found. Somebody wanted me to ask you, our good friend Dan, he does speaker on Twitter at halftime. Are you going to be doing stuff like that for the Browns at halftime of Browns games, or you just like to do it free? You mean Spaces? Spaces, I'm sorry, yeah, Spaces. Yeah, I listened to Dan on Spaces. Yeah. I've never got into the Spaces thing, but I may try it out, at some point. But if you want to listen to Browns pregame, you can go to Twitch or YouTube. Right now, the OBR, they just started pregame tonight and postgame. So I'll be on. Brad, you got to get on TikTok. I'm at 1.8 million views in just like 6 months. All I do is post sports videos. Some of them are just quick, but like, Brad, you got to get on there. I know, I do. Browns fans will love you. I sent you at Blue Wire in our forum or whatever. They posted that, they post podcast news and numbers and interesting industry news and stuff. And it was the TikTok is the best platform to grow your podcast. Yeah, I don't know how that's possible because you can't put a link in there, can you? No, but what I do is I just post. I'll post clips of my show, and the hard part is on Twitter, and no one wants to hear this, but you can only make it 45 seconds because Twitter only allows 45 seconds of video. But for someone like you who lives, breathes, and dies Cleveland sports, you could post what I do, the Atlanta Hawk video, like a 45-second clip of the Cleveland Cavs. Or tonight, you could post the Cleveland Browns if they run a play and comment on it and just post it on there. If you need help, let me know because I'm sure I see how many subscriptions you have on your YouTube channel. You will blow up on TikTok. I appreciate it. What was I going to say? If you get Twitter Blue, you can do 10 minutes of video. Yes, I know that, but I'm not Twitter Blue yet. I'm sad and blue right now, but I should be Twitter Blue. Yeah. I mean, it costs $2.99 or something. Yeah, I'm definitely actually that, and I got to start doing YouTube Shorts. Someone told me, my friend Andrea said you got to start doing YouTube Shorts. I've done a couple. It's really easy. You just clip your own show. You can clip them and throw them in there. I've done a couple of me ranting and cussing and stuff like that, and so. And again, if you need help on TikTok, just let me know. All right, Brad. So you're going on right now. You're going on YouTube right now, so I could end the show and watch you. Yes, YouTube and Twitch. Okay. The OBR pregame show, Browns Bengals. Is it on your Twitter page? It's. I will make sure it is. I will go there and check it out. Thanks so much, Brad. Really appreciate it. See you next week. Love you guys. Thank you. All right, take care. Great job. Thank you, Greg. We're probably going to have Greg on the show next Sunday if he's available. Andrea, all the people commenting. I know a lot of people couldn't comment. We keep having problems with the comment section. People have texted me. Really appreciate the time. Happy Halloween, everyone. In the immortal words of Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back.